Let's rock.
Hey, everybody, this is Doug Aldrich. Let's rock.
Welcome back to Let's Rock. Man, oh man, I think this is our fourth chat.
Yeah, man. I know we've chatted a few times. That's more than I remember. That's pretty good.
I think you're
Been a
actually
few
tied for first place now
with
for
who?
with Lawrence Gowan.
Why do I know that name? Is that the keyboard player?
Yeah, from Styx.
Right. Yeah, I know him. I mean, I know of him. I don't know him, but he's great.
He is awesome. Yeah. So congratulations on that, by the way.
Thanks.
I'm sure that made you.
Thanks. Well, it's hey, it's good company. He's an amazing part of that band. They're great. I haven't seen him for a long time. I think last time I saw them play was I saw a little bit of a show it was about 15, 20 years ago, but man, they were killer.
Oh, they're fantastic. We just saw them a month and a half ago.
Yeah, they're
Great.
continually touring all the time, doing it, big shows.
I guess they have to.
Well, we might as well.
Why not? Sounds kind of like you guys.
Well, we're touring a little bit this year. We're gonna probably kick it up a little next year, but we did some US dates um in June.
And then you're starting up again in September in Europe.
Yeah, September in the UK. We've got 3 weeks of shows in England and the UK, and then we come back in November, I think it is, for Europe. Yeah.
Nice. And then Ottawa, of course. You have to come back to Ottawa.
Yes, man. That we were there. Was it last year? Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
last year. It
Yeah, it was.
was
Yeah.
great.
Fantastic show. Great show. But let's get to the important stuff here. Let them up.
Light them up.
Great, great album.
Thanks. You've heard it?
I have a couple times already. Um,
Nice.
Digging it. Really digging it. I mean, it's exactly
Well,
what you'd expect from a Dead Daisies album, which is great.
Dead Daisies with Corabi, it's definitely a little different than what we've done in the past couple of years, but it's getting back to the roots of the band, let's say. We, you know, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel or anything. We just want to have a record every time we go in the studio. We want to make a record that's fun, that's good, that gets people pumped, That's the most important thing is that it's a record that you can go to the gym on, you can drive with it, you can fly with it, you can get psyched for when you're going out on a Friday night in Ottawa. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
what we want to do.
It's a nice sounding album. Very I hope I don't offend when I say this, but very AC/DC sounding guitars. Very
Yeah,
raw kind of. It sounds to me Les Paul into a Marshall.
there's a lot of that for sure. We did a few different amps. There was some smaller sounds that we went for that. It's weird how like a smaller guitar sound can actually sound more rocking sometimes. I don't know. I always tried to go for the biggest sound, but I'm still learning, always. Chasing tones, you learn. But first of all, let me say this. I appreciate what you're saying, and I would agree probably that we always have had influences of AC/DC and stuff like that. And that's kind of a throwback to a broader thing that David Lowy really loves is this kind of Australian pub rock. And they have pub rock in Canada. They have pub rock in the UK. It's wherever you got a band in a pub just playing simple driving rock and roll, a lot of downstrokes, wah, 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 like that. And and that's where 60 to 70% of the album lives is in that straight ahead driving, kick in the teeth, no jive rock and roll. And that's where AC/DC's, that's their wheelhouse. They always did that. So the majority of the album is that it's like Light 'Em Up, but we also took some some chances and did some different things. Why not?
Well, of course, why not? Yeah, might as well, right?
Yeah,
So when did all this come about? I mean, last time I saw you a year ago, you were touring on the greatest hits.
yeah.
And then I don't know if it's just you guys, but you seem to come out with albums more than most people do. So when did this whole creative brainstorm start?
You know, we love going to the studio and making records. I don't know, if there was definitely not a plan to go in and make a record. We wanted to do maybe I trying to remember because it's like this year's flown by, but when we started off the year, I think we were kind of going in looking to do a song that featured John, because John has been a quintessential part of the Dead Daisies for every time he's been involved with the band. And that's been going on since 2015, I think. Before I got in the band, John was in and I took notice of them because of him. I was like, oh man, Corabi's back, back and out there rocking. And I've known John since we were kids. But that's a different story. But yeah, so we decided let's make a song. We got together and started throwing out some ideas, and I think John had this song which is now just released. It's the second single. I'm gonna ride. Um, that was a song that he brought to it, and then we started looking at some other ideas and kind of started to get excited a little bit about some music. And I think it was this riff that was brought to us by Stevie D from Buck Cherry. Stevie is a friend of the band. He works with our producer Marty Fredrickson. And oh, it's funny too because "I'm Gonna Ride" was also co-written by ex Buck Cherry Keith Nelson with John. And so, but Stevie brought in a riff to give to Marty Fredrickson because he was going to produce a Buck Cherry record. And Marty goes, "Hey, Stevie just sent me this riff, and it sounds like something you guys would want to do." And I thought, okay, well, maybe we can write something like that. But he goes, no, 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 let's take that riff and rewrite it, rewrite the whole song. So in about 4 hours, we wrote the music for not even 3 hours. We probably a couple hours. We had a kind of a working arrangement and even a title. And we kind of messed around with different lyrics eventually, but got back to light them up, I think. And once we got that song, it was like, let's make a record. This is cool, man. This is like exactly what we should be doing right now. We had time, so we booked some time in some studios in March and just went for it.
Wow. Doesn't take you guys long, huh?
We did it very quickly. We were really inspired. We got on a roll. John had a couple things. Marty had a couple things. Me and David had a few things, and Michael Devin brought in a great track. Everything that was brought in, we'd kind of tweak it and experiment with it, see what we could do. We might revert back to the original way, but we also found some interesting approaches to take. There was a song that I brought in that is called Back to Zero. And it's a descending for those people who haven't heard that record yet, obviously, because it's not out. Duh.
Right.
Um, it's kind of a descending line I got influenced by Jimmy Page and Dazed and Confused. And then I kind of put it down an octave and played it a little bit lower and it was almost like a crying in the rain type of thing. And I played it for David Coverdale years ago and he'd said he wanted the song, but we never got to it. We were on the roll with new stuff always. But I brought it out to Marty and Marty really liked all the elements of the song and he took it away and kind of changed up. The riff I had was going to be a riff that was similar to Days of Confused, that it just was a riff and you didn't have any singing on it. But Marty just said, "Hey, I got a great chorus for that riff." And I'm thinking to myself, how are you going to make a riff over Dazed and Confused? How are you going to make a chorus on top of that line? That's pretty bizarre, you know? but he did. Marty's a one of the great songwriters out there, and he's just really smart when it comes to melodies. And he found a melody that worked, and so we had fun. We like you said, we did it very quickly. We went to Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and recorded and wrote down there, and we recorded in Nashville, Tennessee, at Marty's place. It's called Sienna Studios. It's a great, famous studio.
Wow. Couple things that surprised me there. You said Michael Devin brought in a song. I didn't know bass players were allowed to write songs.
Well,
Don't tell.
generally, yeah, no, he's a singer though too. So he brought in lyrics. So it's like it's actually an interesting point because a lot of times the bass player does get the short end of the stick when it comes to that stuff because they're like maybe they're just playing a bass riff and you're like, okay, but that should be the guitar part. What's the bass going to do? Or it's a little awkward, but Michael's a complete songwriter. He plays guitar and he sings and he writes great lyrics. And so he brought in a song called My Way or the Highway and just a really kick-ass song, really great vibe, rock and roll. It's a little, again, it's one of the songs that's a little bit of a different twist than the typical Dead Daisies, but that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do it. And also because, you know, Michael said, hey, either you guys do this or I'm going to kick some ass on
Oh
somebody.
yeah, I can imagine. I just want everyone to know I'm just joking about the bass player thing. I so much respect for bass.
Of course. Hey, man, all the best parts of a song is really the bass. The bass holds it all down. The guitars, I mean, you listen on the radio to, especially the older classic rock stuff. And man, the bass is very, very important. Super important.
Most important. Guitar, who needs guitars?
Well, I do. I need more. More the better.
You can have my acoustic Van Halen guitar.
Well, you want me to send you this one, so if I do that, then I got one less. So then that means I have to buy one more.
Okay, all right. I'll ship you one. I'll make a trade. Yeah.
Well, does it have to be this one? I just got this one.
Okay. What is that, by the way?
It's a old guitar. It's a 1953 that has been boogered up. It's somebody put a harmonica bridge on it and a trapeze, a little bit of a trapeze, and um and it's been refretted. It had a cracked headstock, but it's a killer piece of wood and it's fun to play. It just feels great. Really nice neck. And yeah, so 1953 player grade, they call it these days, because a collector grade would be like perfect frets and everything would be the same as it was in 1953. But this is player grade, so it's like half price.
Nice. So just make sure you put insurance on it when you ship it up here.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Now, the other thing that I wanted to know about is because you mentioned that Corabi was in the band, then he left, then he came back, and before that, a bunch of guys were in the band. Um,
Yeah.
when you play a gig, do you ever think it might be your last show with this band? Because that's kind of the way it goes, switching.
Oh, with the particular lineup? No, I never thought about that, but it does happen. It's the band was started with that premise to be a collective and have people. David Lowy wanted to have, top musicians. And when you got, musicians that have other gigs and stuff, then they're going to book up, and he didn't want to have, David's just an awesome dude. He's very, you know, thoughtful and he's thinking about like, look, I don't want to make anybody change their schedule. So if you got something that comes up that you got to do or you want to do, then by all means do it and we'll bring somebody else in. And that's kind of what he wanted to do, have be a free form thing, very similar to the original Deep Purple. It was like, okay, it's basically a carousel, like a horse carousel, like one of those wheel things at the amusement park that you can just jump on and jump off,
Right.
and it's like a carousel. And so people would come and go in Deep Purple. And then you had all these Mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the same with the Dead Daisies. We've had, amazing musicians in terms of bass players, drummers, guitar players. and singers. But John really is the quintessential singer of the Dead Daisies when it's all said and done. And so it started, last year we put out a best of album, and a bunch of the songs were John's. There was a couple songs that were Glenn's vocal, and it was really interesting because when another singer comes in, it really changes the sound. But then when you put that singer, like when Glenn would sing a John song, it kind of became a Glenn song. It because his vocal was just so characteristic. And the same thing happens with Glenn, with a Glenn song. When John sings on it, it becomes a John song in so many ways, just because his tone is very distinct and undeniably Corabi, and like um I've said this a few times in interviews as we're just starting up this interview cycle, but Corabi's one of the legendary singers. He's really got a tone that people love and is very recognizable. Just like somebody's got a style on guitar or something, when you hear a few licks, it's like, okay, that's so and so. And that's how you hear it. When you hear Corabi right away, it's like, oh, that's John Corabi, or that guy sounds like Corabi. But he's one of the greats, man. He's right up there to me with Coverdale, Dio, Glenn. I mean, he really is still coming into his most valuable time. Because right now he's really throwing down hard, and on this album he sounds amazing. It's really a John album, you know. Well, I mean, it's a Dead Daisies album, but John put a lot of effort, and he sounds great. We did the tracks very quickly. We did, we just went in, we wrote for a week, and then we basically recorded for a week. And by the end of the 2 weeks, we had 10 solid tracks that were basically everything was recorded, all the guitars, all the solos, all the bass, and then John and Marty went ahead and they had melodies and lyrics for roughly for everything. There might have been one or two songs that John was still just tweaking the lyrics and stuff, but John would go away and come back with a basic idea. One of the strongest songs on the, well, not strongest, I should say it differently. It's a cool song. One of my favorite songs on the album is Take My Soul. And that's a song that John put a lot of effort into the lyrics because it was something very different for him, a lot deeper subject matter than maybe, he normally writes on a regular basis. And he went back and forth on that song and put a lot of effort in, and came out with a great lyric, very deep. And musically, it's like, pretty different too. It's kind of an epic track. But John and Marty would go in and they'd sing vocals after the fact. They probably spent another week doing vocals, and then Marty's great with syncopate, the phrasing. Syncopation is what you call it, but Marty would like say, "Hey, sing it like this. Try to emphasize this word," and then maybe John would go, "Yeah, other word there doesn't really sing that great," and then they would brainstorm, what if we changed it to, you know, roll instead of turn, you know, um, how things seem to turn or how things seem to roll. You might change a word like that. And that's what they do. And that's how they wrote it. And so John definitely put a lot of work in.
He definitely sounds fantastic on this for sure. But he always does. I mean, that's kind of a given, right?
Yeah, he's one of the greats, man. I mean, his voice on the road, he is just, I mean, I don't want to jinx it. So I don't want to say too much, but he's a powerhouse. And he has a lot of fun playing live. And when people see John, especially with the Dead Daisies, it's a party. And he's always, even if he's not feeling well, he's always giving 100%. And it reminds me of Dio because there was a tour that I did with Ronnie. It was called Holy Diver Live, and the majority of it, oh, actually, it was recorded and filmed in the UK. And the night that we did the majority of the recording was at a place in London, and Ronnie wasn't feeling good, and he threw down hard, man. It was like you listen to it and you go, he's not sick, but he was really sick, and that's how John is. John just puts in 100%. So I mean, everybody does. I do. If everything I do, it could be the last time I get to do it. So I really want to make it the best I can be. And it's hard to let go of stuff, especially on a record, recording. It's like I would tell Marty, man, now that I got the basic idea, let me kind of own it and I'll come back and I'll just smoke that thing. And he was like, dude, it's got a vibe. Why bother? I really like how it is. I'm the producer, so I'm going to make the final call and you're done. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to be done. I want to keep going.
Perfectionist.
Yeah. Bit of a perfectionist, I guess.
Right on. Okay, I know time flies when we're doing these things, but I got a few more for you here. Um,
Okay.
the something that in the past year has come up is how Nuno brought back the guitar with that guitar solo in Rise. Um, when you hear something like that, does it make you step up? Does it make you um, work harder to try and get something like that? I mean, that's an amazing guitar.
No, it doesn't make me work harder, but it makes me proud of being a guitar player. Thanks to Nuno for doing that because the Dead Daisies is a different kind of band.
Of course.
Everybody knows my playing. I play it, you know, I have certain things that I do well. I have certain things I lean on a lot and I can play, technically. But the Dead Daisies is, especially with this album, it was more about the melodies and the vibe. It wasn't so much about there really wasn't a need for trying to go in that sort of direction. But I'm proud of Nuno for doing that. Nuno's a brilliant guitar player, always has been. I've known Nuno. We're not close or anything, but I know Nuno, and he's always super nice. He's pretty shy, and I've known him since I used to be close with Pat Badger, the bass player, and he introduced me to Nuno back in '90. Yeah, it was 1990, and me and Pat had some girls that we were dating. Those girls were friends. That's how we met. And then, it cut to I met Nuno back then, and then I'd see him just once in a while, every few years, or maybe I didn't see him for 10 years, maybe. But last year we did some shows with Extreme, and they sounded amazing. They We did a festival with them in Germany the last time, and their dressing room was right next to ours. And I didn't mean any harm by it. I just said, "Hey, is Pat in there?" And somebody goes, "Yeah, he's in. Just go in." And I walk in, and Nuno goes, "Hey, Doug, just let yourself in. No problem." And I'm like, "Hey, bro, what's up?" He was joking, but he's just that kind of guy. He's just joking in a dry way. And I think that solo was mind blowing what he did on it. It was really cool. It was classic Nuno. But yeah, with the Dead Daisies, we are doing something a little different. It's it's not based around as much around the solo as it is about the vibe of the song and the groove. That's definitely this album.
Rapid fire. Pew, 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 pew.
Okay, I have a couple rapid fire questions for you. Answer as fast as possible. Um, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yes.
Best Doug Aldrich solo ever.
Oh man, I have no idea. That's for somebody else to decide. I can tell you a couple solos that I worked really hard on. Um, there was, well, let's look at Whitesnake. There was a solo on Good to Be Bad, the song Good to Be Bad. If you people want to check it out on YouTube, it's called Whitesnake, Good to Be Bad. That solo was it was it's pretty simple, and I came up with the basic, you know, flavor of the solo, but I just wanted it to be just mean. So I kept doing take after take, playing the exact same thing, just trying to catch a vibe that was super mean and super intense and on point. Another solo off that album, the Good to Be Bad album, was You're All I Want, All I Want, All I Need. And it's like a very melodic kind of Gary Morse type of melody. And the way that the chord progression went, and this still happens today, sometimes with Dead Daisy stuff, like the chord progression is very simple. And I'm trying to get the best melody. Like the melody is building. It's like it starts down here and then it builds up and it kind of leads into this phrase. Oh, that's really nice. And then you listen back and you go, oh, now I'm hearing some other things. And you try and you start with that and you're like, oh, that works. But now which one's better? Does it start down here like this, or does it start a little bit higher right here and then lead into this part? Well, if I do that there, that means I'm going to be building up faster. That means I'm going to be spending more time. I drove myself crazy on that solo, on trying to get the right melody. And finally, in the end, I think I got a pretty good one. Same thing with the Dead Daisies. Some stuff like we were doing Holy Ground, and there was a song called I forget I'm spacing on the title. Sorry, bro. But either way, it was a very simple melody, like a boom da na 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 and it was a very, very simple melody. And I was halfway through the song and the melody was working great, but I was like, I don't know what to do now. And uh, Glenn's manager, Jimmy, said, well, why don't you just repeat it? And I'm like, exactly. Repeat it. If you did it and it worked really good, why not repeat it? Do it an octave higher. So that's what happened. It's based on the title, but it's on Holy Ground record. But yeah, there is no best solo. It's the song. Let's see. What's it? There was a couple of songs on the Dio album that I did that was pretty good. On the Killing the Dragon solo, for example, was really good. The Dead Daisies, there's a couple of simple solos that I really love, like Dead and Gone is one that I really love. It's very simple. On the new record, Back to Zero is something different for me. It's a little bit really plays off the music, and it's got a little bit more of a lot of the solos that I'm trying to do now with the Dead Daisies. What would make a great solo is something that you can hum it and remember it. So there's songs like I Want to Be Your Bitch. When people hear that, they're going to hear a motif that you can remember. And sometimes those kind of solos aren't flashy, but they really make the song feel good. And then later on, you might listen to it and go, oh, I really love that solo, but it's not the first thing that jumps out.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like all of them, just so you know. I know we're running out of time. I have a whole bunch of more questions, but I know we can't get to them.
Well, fire, you told me to go quick, and I actually did the opposite. So let's try some rapid fire. I'll try and keep it to like 2 words.
Real quick. Do you still practice or do you just write?
Yes, I practice. I need to. I have to.
What technique have you learned recently that you didn't know?
I was messing around. I saw online this thing where, when I play, I'm not going to play loud because it sounds weird when you play through that. I don't know what that sounds like to you, but basically when I was a kid, I started to learn these diatonic scales, these major scales. And I figured out, I saw Randy Rhoads play, and he would put like these 3 notes per run, 3 notes, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, stuff like that. And he would like pick the first note and just hammer the next 2 on each string. And then when I started practicing my staccato picking, I would practice slowly. So I'd really try to practice my picking. Then I would just online the other day, and I saw Yngwie would do it like this. He would alternate pick. So he'd start with the downstroke. So it's down, up, down, and then again, down, up, down. So it's down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. So it'd be like 2 downs together versus how I'm doing it. I'm starting with an upstroke, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And Ingve did it a different way. So I was just learning. I don't have it down yet, but I was learning that Ingve technique just to see what it was like, see if it opened up any doors, maybe something that would give me an idea for something of my own.
Cool. Very cool. Okay, last question. I always try to ask one question that you've probably never had before in an interview because it's pretty hard to do, to find a question that you guys have not answered. Pineapple on pizza or not?
I've had it. It's good, but I prefer it without. I prefer the simple flavors. It comes down with the pizza, and this is a big topic right now online. As you know, there's a couple guys, Dave Portnoy does a lot of pizza reviews and made a career out of it. But it really does come down to the basics: the bread, the sauce, and the cheese, and how it's cooked. And if you can make that simple thing be amazing, then that's a massive win. You don't need pineapple on that kind of pie.
That's true. Thank you, sir. Hopefully we'll see you in Ottawa at some point.
Absolutely. I just want to thank you for all you're doing for us. I appreciate being one of the number one people that have been on your show. It means a lot. And thanks to all your fans and listeners for supporting the Dead Daisies and all of us playing this kind of music. And definitely can't wait to come back up there and see you.
Nice. And just so everyone knows before we go, Light 'em Up, September 6th, I think is the release date, right? September 6th?
September 6th, it comes out. Check it out. It'll be on all streaming services. And also check out deaddaisies.com because there's always content. We're just getting ready to fire up in a couple weeks, and there's going to be a lot of fun stuff when the album comes out. So check out deaddaisies.com.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Doug. Really appreciate this.
Thanks, brother. All right. All the best, man. And by the way, congratulations on the Canadian Olympics. It was really cool.
Best ever.
See. So was it the discus girl or the shot put girl? I can't remember.
Hammer throw.
Hammer throw. That's right. Hammer throw.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
She nailed
it.
And
And the men. What was the guy's name? He was amazing. The hammer throw.
We got first time in forever. We got the 4x100 relay.
Nice.
So
yeah, it was really good.
Have you never had poutine while you're up in Canada?
No. What is it?
Next time you're in Canada, poutine is just fries and gravy and cheese, and it's the best
thing.
I
had that. I didn't know it was called that. I've had it. It's unbelievable.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
That's a Quebec, French Quebecois dish.
Yeah, I've had that. I was trying to prepare for a Whitesnake tour, trying to get in shape, and I was eating that. So,
that's not going to get you in shape. Holy shit, dude. Coverdale, Dio, and Corabi you've played with.
And others. I mean, I worked with Kelly Hansen. I had a great singer in my very first band called Lion. There was a great singer called Cal Swan. Kelly Hansen from Hurricane. I worked with Glenn Hughes is in there.
Oh, Glenn Hughes.
And then a guy I've worked with so many, Keith St. John, Andrew Friedman, a bunch of guys, but Corabi has definitely he's paved himself a unique path, and he's great to work with, and great singer, great dude.
Thank you, good night.